welcome to our May 21st Lunch and Learn. We have Salvation Army, Western Gambling, St. Michael's, and PFLAG on the line. Just a little bit about Niagara Pride. We are a 501c3 organization working with LGBTQ plus individuals and families, primarily in Niagara County. We do educational programs like this Lunch and Learn. We do health fairs and just work with people in the community that are affirming of LGBTQ plus individuals and families. We also do community drives throughout the year, backpacks, sock drives we've done, and we currently have a lot planned for June Pride. So stay tuned to our website and Facebook for more information on that. We envision an LGBTQ plus community in which individuals and families feel safe, secure, and affirmed, where they live, work, worship, and play. And first up, we have PFLAG, and we have Julie Cristiano on the line. Julie, do you want to get started?
Okay, hello. Thank you for inviting our group and me to share today, and thank you for your series and the good things you're doing with Niagara Pride. You are inspiring and motivating us, so thank you for this opportunity. I'm the board president of Buffalo Niagara, well, PFLAG Buffalo Niagara. I guess the next slide. And I can't read this here with my people here. Okay, so we started, PFLAG started in 1972. Jeannie Manford marched with her son in the New York City's Pride Parade, which is very rare and surprising and shocking to people at the time, not to the people in the parade, of course. She began a support group for families like hers, and PFLAG was born. PFLAG originally stood for Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Probably about 7 years ago, the national organization changed it just to the acronym. And it's, you know, now we obviously the LGBTQ plus community is our focus. It always was, but it just isn't in the name. And we've been in existence in Buffalo, Niagara, since the late 1980s. So a little about what we do. Next slide. One of our 3 missions is to support. So we have monthly sharing meetings, generally the 3rd Sunday of most months, but not in July and December. But now it's via Zoom. But hopefully we'll be back at the Kenilworth United Church of Christ in Tonawanda, which is a very wonderful, welcoming, and affirming church. We meet there. I think we've just changed our times to 1 o'clock, 3rd Sunday of every month. We have a helpline. People can call at any time. A PFLAG parent will get back to somebody. And basically what we do, like Jeannie Manford did, support her son. We're supporting people whose family members just come out. I guess that's the next slide, sorry. But we support with resources, the support meetings, the helpline, willingness to share and listen. We also give scholarships and grants. But going back to our main mission, on the next slide, this is really what our focus is right now. Our support meetings, our helpline is we meet because we have learned somebody close to us is gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, obviously questioning as well. We try to help each other deal with this information in a positive manner. Although we do not always agree, we try to be understanding. We offer help to those who seek it. We do not force ourselves on others. We strive to maintain anonymity while sharing on a level that's comfortable. We may have a parent or a family member, sometimes a spouse comes in, they've just discovered somebody has come out to them. Sometimes they want just to get information on how to be the best parent they can, how to be more supportive. Sometimes they're struggling with it. They're not accepting what they've heard. They're wanting it to change. So we're trying to be open. And our members on our board, also the people who come just to the support group, usually can fill that purpose very well, having been through similar. We also have many people come with success stories on their evolution or you know, their family relationship that's stronger. All right, next slide. All right, thanks. Also, besides support, our mission is to educate. We have our PFLAG parents have visited schools and conferences. Often the conferences are the school groups. They're called Gay Straight Alliances, but sometimes now they're Alliances for Equity. Teenagers get together and they have a conference once a year. We've gone to that. We've tabled. We have a monthly newsletter and Facebook page with current articles of interest to share what we've learned. We've, in the past non-COVID times, we've gone to the library, the Central Library at Downtown Library. October is the time to stop bullying month, so we've had movies and panels open to the public. Haven't had it for a couple of years, but the interfaith panel, where we have members of welcoming and affirming religious groups come to speak. We find often one of the problems people have when their loved one comes out is some religious issues they brought with them into the discussion, and we try to work with that and welcoming and affirming people share the love in their faith. Thank you. Next one. We also advocate as our third mission. We support lobbying day in Albany when local political members of LGBTQ plus groups go. We're not politically supporting candidates, but we support the policies, the bills. We've gone to speak at meetings in support of bills and policies. For example, GENDA, the Dignity for All Act, gone to schools, and sometimes have gone, let's say most recently, about 2 years ago, to Erie County to speak against conversion therapy. And luckily that passed in 2019. And we also rally with other local groups in support of LGBTQ plus issues. If there's a rally downtown, depending on what the issue is, we definitely join the community and support. And I guess, so we support, educate, and advocate. It's our main goals. Next slide. Ways to contact us. This is our PO box. We have an email. We have obviously a web page and a Facebook page. We are getting our brochures up to date, and we have bookmarks. Some are more for teenagers, some are more for parents. We give those to local guidance counselors, sometimes the Gay Straight Alliance advisors in the high schools. Sometimes we go in waves where people know about us. The counselors are like, oh, let's call PFLAG. Your parent's struggling. You just came out. And sometimes the parent Googles us and finds us. Next slide, I think. Last slide. I think there's one more, Justin. Which is just my thank you for this opportunity to share with you. If you have questions when it's time for that, I'll try to answer. I plan on having a PFLAG parent join us as well, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Julie. All right. And next up, we have Angie from Western New York Problem Gambling.
Hi, folks. Thanks so much for having me. My name's Angela DeRosa. I'm the program manager with the Western Problem Gambling Resource Center. And this was a great opportunity for us to really highlight our services and what we have available for the entire community, as well as folks in the LGBTQ plus community. Our resource center is one of 7 across New York State that focuses specifically on 2 primary things, and that's raising awareness and education about gambling and problem gambling, and getting folks who are experiencing a gambling problem, either because they themselves are gambling or a loved one is, connected to help and resources in the community. So again, we're one of 7, and our Western Problem Gambling Resource Center covers the 8 counties of Western New York, including Erie and Niagara counties, Orleans, Genesee, Wyoming, and Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Allegheny. So we have a pretty large area. And a majority of our work is allowing folks in the community, whether they're referred through a different community organization or they happen to find our phone number online or through our print materials, just to give us a call and discuss what potential supports and resources there are for anyone who's experiencing a gambling problem. As you've probably noticed over the last several months, in particular, there's been a significant increase in chatter about mobile sports betting, and the accessibility to mobile sports betting and online betting has gone up. And certainly COVID has had an impact on the rate of online gambling and other gambling opportunities there have been. So we've seen an increase in folks developing problems. Anytime that there's an increase in access or availability, we often see an increase in resulting problems as well. Our organization has a neutral stance on gambling itself. However, we want to make sure that help services and support are available to anybody who's experiencing resulting problems from their gambling. We get folks connected who are gambling or have a loved one who is with local private practice clinicians who are specially trained to work with individuals with gambling problems, in addition to their other counseling expertise, including other mental health issues, other addictions, or just general counseling. So those folks all have an extensive backgrounds to support folks who might be experiencing gambling problems with all of their mental health needs, not just having to focus on their gambling. We try to make the best match for the individual. And if for some reason a person is uninsured or underinsured, or is connected with one of our counselors who doesn't accept their specific insurance, our program helps cover the cost of the counseling services. So as you can imagine with problem gambling, oftentimes financial burdens are something that comes along with it, and we don't want finances to be a barrier for people getting support. If for some reason a person is not interested or ready to go to counseling, we understand that everyone is in a different place, and we're happy to meet those individuals where they are. So we also make connections to Gamblers Anonymous or Gam-Anon or other recovery type of groups in the Western New York area, or statewide or nationally as well, depending on the need of the person. And we'll also connect to other services in the community to help support their gambling recovery. So if someone is experiencing some financial or housing issues that they also need to deal with, we try to keep a finger on the pulse of the community and make a warm transfer to other organizations that can help supplement the assistance that we're providing as well. And of course, if there's anyone out there who is a mental health counselor and is interested in being part of our network to accept referrals, I'm always happy to share information about our services, how you can get connected, how you can make referrals to our organization. And I love connecting with other organizations like those who are on this meeting right now, just to know that other services that are available in case our clients need support. Next slide, Justin. This is just our contact information. My colleague Jeffrey is more in charge of outreach and education. We do free presentations and trainings for the community, for organizations that often demonstrate the connection between problem gambling and other issues or other organizations' missions and visions. And we're happy to tailor those trainings and outreach opportunities to whoever the audience is. So if you have staff or you're connected with an organization that might want to learn how problem gambling might be impacting your particular community, we'd be happy to have you reach out to us and we'd be able to provide that for you. We also have a lot of print materials that we can either mail or drop off to different organizations in the area, and we're happy to do that as well. And as I mentioned, I'm more on the clinical end of things. So if there are folks who have questions about the referral process or our counselors or counseling network, I'm happy to answer those questions as well. The large phone number at the bottom is our call-in line. That number is answered by me, actually. I'm the only person who answers the phone in our area, with the exception of some help from our Finger Lakes partners if I'm unavailable. But the person is able to speak to a local individual who's familiar with the area. They're not getting routed to New York City or Albany and fumbling around with not really knowing areas. We really wanted to focus on making sure we had people right in the region who are familiar with everything and kind of can relate to lived experiences within our Western New York area. And there's no obligation to accept any sort of help. I like to just go over the options that people have, engage what type of support that they're looking for. And even if people just have general questions about gambling, problem gambling, the gambling landscape in the Western New York area, they're welcome to call that number. I'm happy to share information, whatever the individual caller needs. So again, I am available to answer any questions as well when we get to that point, and I'm really glad to be part of this particular panel and share our resources for individuals who are being negatively impacted by problem gambling.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Steve Carell from Salvation Army.
All right, I'm unmuted. I'm looking at the PowerPoint. I hope that you haven't looked at the 4 boxes on the screen and remembered Sesame Street and sung the song in your head. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong. I feel like I need to address the elephant in the room head on. The Salvation Army has been around for 150 plus years, and we've been in Niagara County for 132. We have over 2 million members, and that's not counting volunteers and everyone else who's associated with us. Whenever you get that many people together, you're going to have some ignorant people. And there have been a lot of people, well, some people who share my uniform, who wear my uniform, who've done some terrible things while wearing that uniform. And so I openly state that. And I feel like in Niagara County in particular, there's some real need. And I have a responsibility to get my voice out there because unfortunately, the actions of a few are going to impact the way the LGBTQ plus community sees the Salvation Army. And there are hungry people in our community. We serve food. And the only reason why we don't serve someone is because of lack of resources, which right now I have lots of food. I have lots of food, and I want to share that with anyone who's hungry. I've taken the approach over the last 5 years in this community and my entire 20-year officership that trust needs to be earned, and damaged trust we need to work hard to earn back. So even if it wasn't me who damaged the trust, someone else wearing my uniform has in many cases, or in some cases. And I want to take the time, but I don't feel like I have that time anymore to just earn trust one-on-one because there are hungry people. And so the Salvation Army in Niagara Falls, serving the western half of Niagara County, and in Lockport, serving the other half of Niagara County, we feed hungry people. I have a food pantry that's open 5 days a week. It's a choice pantry, but we're in COVID mode still, probably for only a couple more weeks. So that if you call our number, and I'll give you the number because I didn't prepare PowerPoint, it's 716-283-7697. 716-283-7697. And you call Monday through Friday. Thank you, Justin. If you call Monday through Friday in the morning between 9 and 12, we will schedule you an appointment to come and receive food the same day. Unless that's not convenient to you, then we'll make an arrangement for the next day or a day later, depending on what's convenient. Every Thursday, we also have a mass food distribution where we distribute bread, prepared foods, produce, whatever other foods we have available. So for the food pantry, that's a once a month deal. You can come as often as you want. It's primarily for people in the 14304 area code, but if you come and ask for food, we're going to serve anyone. I don't turn people away for food. So I'm required by Feed More to say that it's there, but we'll get you food, and then we'll help you find the closest food pantry to you. But the Thursday distribution is every Thursday at 9:30, and that's for anyone who comes. And when we have something special, whether we have milk or produce or something really good, a couple of weeks ago, yesterday we gave away hot dogs and milk in addition to everything else. And whenever that happens, watch our Facebook, and we always post that so that you know what we have if it's more than just the bread. We also have a community garden that's been growing for the last 5 years, and we give that out using a free farm stand that's in front of our building. In addition to food, we help with rent, and this is a time where people are about to face a real rent problem if they have been taking advantage of the moratorium. Some maybe too much, some by choice, and some just haven't had it. But that moratorium is going to come up, and some people are going to be a few months behind. And we manage a couple of rental assistance programs, emergency food and shelter program, which is a federally funded program, which is open to everyone. We also are working to add some state funds. We just used up some donated funds that were privately funded. Whenever we have funds available, we make that known. And as long as you qualify for the program based on your need only, we will serve you to the best of our ability. We also have a caseworker, and our caseworker, frankly, identifies with LGBTQ plus community, and has her own story that she shares openly, and has given me permission to talk about when needed. Because she cares deeply about the Salvation Army and wants to share her story to build trust. So that's kind of where we are. We do the basic emergency assistance. We've worked with Niagara Pride when it comes to backpack distribution. And at Christmas, we have a massive toy distribution. And this year, the community was very good to us. So we passed on as much of that as we could to Niagara Pride and other community agencies. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Steve. Did anyone join from Save the Michaels?
Yes, I humbly apologize for being late. We had an Oasis training that went 15 minutes longer. So this is my time?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My name's Andrew Hornbarger. I am a recovery coach with Save the Michaels. And for those of you who are not familiar with Save the Michaels, our organization started 10 years ago. Our president, and Avi, and his wife, Julie Israel, they had a son that was addicted to opioids. And he drove himself to ECMC detox and hoping to get a bed. And they had turned him away because there wasn't any available beds. And in his despair, he went home and committed suicide. So the Avi and Julie, in their grief, they wanted a foundation started so their son's life had meaning, that if somebody is looking for a bed in a treatment center, we will find you one within 24 to 48 hours. And we almost always can honor that. So 12 years ago, when I was in rehab, I was put on a 3-week waiting list. And for me, that was 3 overdoses later. So when somebody wants a bed, it's so critical that you have it immediately because somebody could change their mind. But here we are 10 years later, and we've kind of morphed into a total recovery solution in both Erie County and in Niagara County. We've got a big office in Buffalo that represents all of Erie, and an office in Lockport that represents all of Niagara County. And just our physical offices are designed for people if they have nowhere to go, if they just want to come to a safe place and hang out. We have a recreation room with a brand new 100-inch TV with an Xbox. We've got a pool table, ping pong, just a safe place for people to come. And we also have, we have meetings throughout the week. We've got 3 NA meetings a week here. Pre-COVID, we had meetings all the time, and hopefully we'll get back to that. as well as a recovery group at noon on Wednesdays. Our facilities, we've got brand new Apple computers, so we help people, you know, for employment. As a recovery coach, I spent a lot of time filling out Section 8 applications, literally whatever they need to do, whether it's applications for housing, putting together resumes. As a recovery coach, I wear a lot of hats. Like I'm a case manager, and I help them with a lot of logistical things that they're not able to do or maybe need help with. But I also meet with clients every week, and it took me a long time to figure out recovery was not as hard as I made it. It's just about just putting small goals together each week, that you're always putting your best foot forward. I just remember when I went to my first meeting like 20 years ago, this person came up to me and said, you know what you need to change? Everything. And how do you even put your arms around that? Like and it isn't true. I work with people, we make small digestible goals each week that we're always going in the right direction. And quite often in the beginning, it's just getting them aligned with a doctor. Many people will not have a doctor, a dentist, getting housing, whatever their needs are, and then just working for them and just being another layer of support for them. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. All right, at this time, we'll open it up for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute and ask.
Andrew, I was just hoping you could put your contact information in the chat box, because I would love to reach out to you.
I certainly will.
Thank you.
I'm going to put my office as well as my cell phone.
Excellent. Thank you.
And does Save the Michaels only work with opioid addiction or other substances as well?
And, you know, any substance. And, you know, when we take people to treatment, we will transport them. And when they successfully complete the program, we pick them up. And we take people from as close to as Reflections here in Lockport and as far as New York City.
Wow.
And it's funny, you know, for a long time, opioid was one of the bigger ones. And I guess it still is, but alcoholism is a really big one.
I have a question for you, Andrew. I'm Julie from PFLAG. With when Michael couldn't find a bed, and now you have, you know, can go as far as New York City, how were you able to network to get local people? Are there more beds? You know, is the funding better? I'm just wondering how that's improved.
You know, how that's improved. We, Avi, as well as others in our organization, we've worked hard to have relationships with the different facilities, like ECMC. They put a certain amount of beds aside for us every day. So, which is, you know, when we call and somebody needs something immediately, you know, we obviously, it's, you know, it's like an IV drug user or somebody that, you know, that really can't wait a day or two. And we have that with Clearview, Reflections. We have very close relationships with all the Dick Van Dyke, just any treatment center in the state of New York and several in Pennsylvania.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I just Jeannie joined us. Jeannie Mullins over here. She's a PFLAG parent. She's actually just joined our board. So I thought, Jeannie, if you just would like to, is it okay if she just explains a little of how she found PFLAG, why you found PFLAG? I kind of talk more about the organization. I think you'll bring a personal touch.
Absolutely.
Oh boy. Okay. Now I'm nervous. Hi, everybody. So I, my middle child, Hannibal, is trans, and he fully transitioned over the past COVID year, which is crazy. He's one of the very few people I know that had a great COVID year, you know, but he had all the surgeries done. And so you know, I don't know why I didn't, because I used to watch a show called Queer as Folk, and there was this one character that was like huge in the PFLAG organization, and it never occurred to me that we actually had one here. So I do a lot of like reading and watching documentaries and subscribing to different newsletters, and I felt like I needed a little more support, and it sort of dawned on me, like, let me check and see if there's a PFLAG in Buffalo, and sure enough. And I felt like I just needed to celebrate my son more in order to make everybody more comfortable. And I wanted to have all the tools in my toolbox for when people would say really dumb things to me or to him. And, you know, we've had to draw some lines in the sand, which is completely fine because you always pick your kid. And so I think we've at our house anyways, like I told this to Julie, he's a middle kid. So he's directly in the center of all the love and support he could possibly want. And I know that there's other parents out there that just can't wrap their head around who their kid actually is. And it's really sad because the kid is suffering, and whoever, I'm just talking in generalities, but so I just kind of wanted to lend some of the things that I've learned, I guess, on my own and be supportive to people who are supports for other people. I hope that was okay.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean.
Any other questions
Can
or
I ask a
testimony?
question of Salvation Army?
Hmm?
You know, when you guys help with financial stuff for housing, what does one do? How do they start that process?
Well, every Salvation Army is different depending on the community. It all depends on what resources we have available to us. So in Niagara Falls, we don't get people into housing. We help with rental assistance, so they already have to be in a place. Okay. If they already have a place and they're in their arrears, we manage 3 or 4 different programs. So it depends on which program we're utilizing at the time, and they happen at different times of the year. So emergency food and shelter program, and I'm not the caseworker, I'm the director. So it starts with calling our caseworker, Corrine. And she'll work with someone to try and find or to establish what they're qualified for. I didn't mention, we also help with fuel assistance, depending on the time of the year and what we have available. And that's another one where there are different requirements. So the first step is to call. One of the things to note is that even if we can't help you, we know we have relationships with the other agencies that do the same type of work as us. And so we will reach out and make referrals and try to find the person, someone who can help them. Although often Corinne's first answer is the funds are all used up for this program right now, and she'll give you a date to call back. Right now, we just finished out some donated funds, and we're moving into the next phase of emergency food and shelter program, and that should start probably the beginning of June, but we haven't received the first check from the federal government, so that's kind of always what we're waiting for. The first step is to call us. If you qualify, we will know usually within the first 15 minutes of an interview. Corrine will go down the list of the thing. Basically, qualification is, are you arrears? Are you in the arrears? And then there's a process of contacting. You have to live in an apartment or house that's a legal apartment. So one of the things we have to do is call this. We call the city with each one to identify that the apartment is legally rented. So it can't be like a garage that's been modified, but that's being done under the table. It can't be that you're paying rent to your parents type thing. As long as it's a legal rental, then it works. And then she goes through the process. It involves calling the landlord and making sure that they agree to the terms as far as waiting, as far as us paying for the rent, and they have to also agree that they're not going to evict you within the next 30 days. So based on this month's rent, that they have to accept the program. That's basically it. There's not a lot of strings. And that's kind of why we focused on rental assistance, because some of the other aspects of the EFSP program have a lot more strings attached to them and make it harder to serve the people. So we use rent, and little did we know when we made that decision 5 years ago that rent was going to be such an issue in our community. come COVID with what we're about to face when this moratorium ends.
Thank you.
Steve, I got a question for you. I've been hearing some rumblings on the street about a summer cookout. Can you divulge any info about that?
Sure. The rumblings are true. The Salvation Army and the Peacemakers partnered last year when we started our COVID response food distribution on Thursday mornings. I would send a truck to Syracuse every Thursday, load it up and bring it back. And we loved the relationship that formed between the two agencies. So we got together and said, what can we do? And so this year, every Monday at, I believe it's 5:30, it might be 6, but pretty soon we're going to post the information officially. But every Monday, starting the last Monday in June for the entire summer, we're going to do a barbecue. And it's just going to be a free open barbecue to anyone in the community. Come by, we'll hand you. We're always going to have hamburgers and hot dogs. We're working on some special days. So one day you may come and there'll be sausage in addition to the hamburgers and hot dogs. One day there might be chicken. One day there might be steak. It all depends on what resources we're able to tap over the course of the summer. And the Peacemakers are going to use that as a jumping off point. So they're looking at other things that they can attach to the barbecue. So maybe we're going to do a movie in the parking lot one night. We're going to try and it's going to be us being neighborly, just building community while passing out free food, which is something we're known for and good at in Niagara Falls.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to it. Any other questions?
I just have one comment for the gambling for Angela. You know, it's funny, we deal with drugs, but when I'm doing an intake with somebody, I will just bring up, like, if you had any problem with gambling, and I would say like 6 out of 10 times they're like, oh yeah, I guess I do. So I was just shocked at how it goes hand in hand.
Yes, and we have a lot of trainings and different materials that really demonstrate the overlap between drug and alcohol use and gambling. Because, you know, long time ago, gambling used to be like the transition addiction that people would recommend, providers would recommend while you're in recovery from drugs or alcohol, because it does stimulate the same part of the brain. So there is a very similar impact to the person. However, you know, we've found that the mental distress and all of the other problems that come along with it are so impactful that it's really not a safe alternative. Unfortunately, with gambling, it has the highest rate of suicide among any addiction. About 1 in 5 individuals with a gambling problem will attempt or die by suicide. So it is a really important mental health address. So we want to make sure that we're doing outreach and sharing and collaborating with organizations like yours to make sure that people are screening. So I'm really happy to hear that you do bring that up as part of your intake, because not many people do. It's just such a normalized activity in our community that people don't think about it necessarily as being a problem for most people.
Right. You know, and it's funny, I'm not sure everyone in our organization, but I'm going to bring it up to everybody. But I just stumbled across it because of one client. I thought, boy, I really should be asking that. And I was just, again, I was surprised at the frequency that yes was answered.
Right. Well, I really appreciate you incorporating that into your intake. That means it makes a big difference, because usually with gambling, until somebody asks you or talks to you about it, that's not one of the things you typically volunteer for or volunteer in an interview. And a lot of folks don't naturally feel compelled to reach out when they're struggling with something like that. Or if you're a family member who has an individual gambling and it's causing that person a lot of stress and anxiety and frustration. Again, those folks often feel isolated because they're not sure if there's support for them. So the more that we can get the word out that in Western New York and across New York State, we have those services available, it's really important to us. And we always appreciate partners sharing that with their clients as well.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I just want to thank everyone for being here and sharing all this great information. To stay tuned to all the Pride events coming up in the month of June, you can check out Niagara Pride's Facebook group or niagarapride.org, and we will have all the information from the organizations that shared today. And everyone have a good rest of your day. And that concludes today's Lunch and Learn. Thank you.